All right, so let's get started. So this panel is about ICO. I prepared a few questions for our esteemed guest. I think a good way to start would be first maybe introduce yourself, starting maybe with Ashley in a minute or so to understand what you do.
So is that working?
Yeah, you're on.
Hi guys, so my name is Ashley Turing. I'm the CEO and founder of LiveTree. Maybe unlike some of the ICOs out there, we are an existing business. We've been running for 2 years. We've captured 5% of market share for funding for film and television. And we identified a problem whereabouts our projects that were getting funded and being brought to production were not actually reaching cinemas. They're not actually getting onto your TV sets. So we looked at the industry and we looked at some of the challenges that they face. Oftentimes these deals can be complex in nature. They revolve around exclusivity, which jurisdiction you want it in, do you want what content, what length of period do you want it? And if you add them together and package them together, it can be quite timely, can take a lot of time to negotiate these contracts. These guys are actually writing it down. Josh? We good?
A lot of feedback.
Right.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Feedback.
So one of the challenges is that they're paying 35%, and the deals are taking 6 to 12 months. So we looked at a blockchain to manage rights, reduce costs, and deliver them new content. On top of this, we're also launching an OTT, our own channel. It's called Blossom TV. And this is really focused on educating the wider public on crypto, on investments, on blockchain, which is much needed nowadays. And we're really focused on building a channel that sets us apart by the content that we create. What I mean by that, we're launching our own channel, which our own show called The Buy-In, which is similar to, let's say, Apprentice and Dragon's Den, but it's for ICOs. And you can invest in real time through your television.
All right, and is this project backed by an ICO, just so the public understand?
So yeah, we're currently in our
Okay,
token
so
sale.
I will ask that same question for everyone. So we also in the context of obviously ICO in this case. So if you're executing on an ICO, please do explain what you do in that context, right? So Peter, maybe you want to cover what you do?
Yeah, so again, we're an existing business, founder and CEO of a 5-year-old consulting business, very much focused on delivering custom execution engines to tier 1 and 2 banks. So we help banks re-engineer or replace their trading systems, usually the order management and market data, and typically in FX and equity space. So essentially looking to translate that expertise in delivering high-performance systems in a short period of time into the blockchain space. So what that translates to being is payments and exchanges using technology we've already developed, but with the twist, basically, of blockchain. We focus much more on proving that the platform works, because this is a different platform. We're not looking to build on an existing one. So we have a working prototype you can now download, and we're looking to ICO in about 2 months' time.
2 months, okay. Maybe you want to go next, Mike?
Sure, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Reaves. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cashbet. We're the world's only complete crypto-ready iGaming platform. We empower real money gaming in the UK and throughout Europe, social gaming, and in the US, we've got a product that runs skill-based gaming in 36 states. We've developed our technology over the last 5 years. We're right now licensed by the UK Gambling Commission, the Alderney Gambling Control Commission, as both a casino software developer and a remote casino operator. I note that it's always the sin industries in the past who have really pushed forward the new technology, and we're no different. We provide a very above-board, white hat, and world-class entertainment experience. People around the world gamble, and we're happy to go ahead and facilitate it in a very responsible way, in a way that people enjoy, in a way that consumers are protected, and we're conducting an ICO right now.
All right, brilliant. Linda?
Right, well, I don't know how I can follow on from that, but I'm Linda Leaney. I'm the CFO of Globcoin. We are a stable currency, a stable coin, sorry, and we are looking to bring stable coins to the next level. We're currently in the middle of an ICO. That will be finishing in a couple of weeks' time, but this was such a good conference that we could not miss the opportunity to come here and speak to people today.
That's fair use. So my first question, and maybe a little bit controversial. I've met a lot of people who say they want to do an ICO. They don't know how to go about it, and usually it's never a technical problem. From a technical point of view, I think people have a good understanding of ERC20 tokens on Ethereum, or maybe even just plain accepting Bitcoin like it used to be done in the old days. What they're worried about is the legal aspect of it, in particular the fact that listing unregistered securities is illegal in many jurisdictions, especially in the United States, where there has been precedent where people have been thrown in jail for doing so. So how do you reconciliate the legal status of ICO pretty much around the world and the current spate of ICO, because I feel like there's one every 10 minutes at this point, maybe even 100 a day at times. How do you explain this, and how did you manage to circumvent these issues? Who wants to start? Michael?
I'll start. I live in the United States, and we've got a company that's based in Alderney in the Channel Islands. It was formed 5 years ago. The big challenge that we have, well, first off, let me just back up for a minute. We've got a motto in my company, and that motto is, don't go to jail, okay?
It's a good motto.
We're here to, we're here to provide a great experience for players. We provide great technology, and what we're doing, we feel that we're doing within the confines of the law as they've been dictated to us. So what we do is, we're conducting our ICO under a Regulation D exemption from the SEC, which requires that we only take accredited investors from the United States. We only take accredited investors from Canada. We have an electronic filing that we've done with the SEC, and we're very careful about who we accept money from. We go through a very rigorous KYC process. As you probably know, online gambling platforms have KYC built into them, so we use that to go ahead and make sure that we understand the age, the identity, the residency of all of the participants in our ICO, and in addition, we do a very thorough AML check. So to the extent that we understand the laws, we think that we're abiding by them. We've also got very good counsel that help us to interpret what the SEC says on a regular basis. My feeling, though, is that the SEC is, there's been some enforcement action, but the enforcement action has been towards companies that are fairly blatantly fraudulent. And I think that if you conduct yourself in a way where you're not in it for a money grab, and you're really basing the business on your fundamentals, and you're not defrauding people just flagrantly, my feeling is the SEC is hopefully going to have a light touch, because we want this innovation to take place. And we want this innovation, and frankly speaking from somebody who lives in the US, we want this innovation to take place within the United States. And so I think the SEC realizes that. They recognize that it's important to go ahead and maintain a culture and an atmosphere of innovation, and I think that's going to continue. I do think that regulation will get a little bit tougher. I think that you're going to have to abide by whatever rules they come up with, or risk, wearing the orange jumpsuit. But I hope and I believe that they will maintain a light touch.
Right, that's a fair comment. Anyone else want to?
If I may go, moving from the United States, our ICO is based in Switzerland, and we deliberately chose Switzerland, mainly because the regulator there, FINMA, is very well respected globally and has been very clear on what they think ICO should do. They regularly actually publish guidelines, and the most recent of those came out about a month ago, where they are looking at different categories of tokens. There's a very big difference between a security token and a utility token. The FINMA view is that they want to protect consumers, give clear guidance, but not be too heavy-handed at the moment. It's a developing market. They recognize that. They're taking that into account, and we're really happy to be based in Switzerland as a result. We've gone one step further in my local area, which is Zug. It's known as the Crypto Valley. We've made our own association. It's called the Crypto Valley Association, and we have our own code of conduct as well, so that people who are investing or donating to our ICOs know that we've got certain levels there of protection for them.
All right, Stephan, you mentioned, it's a great segue to the next question. You mentioned the word donation. is that, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen ICO prospectus, and sometimes they say you're donating to this project. Now, I think it doesn't take a genius to know that the people who are donating expect returns, and that makes it a security. How do you reconcile that, considering that, again, that might be breaching existing regulation, especially in the US? While you're based in Switzerland, I imagine the distribution of your token is worldwide because you can't prevent people from, say, using a VPN.
I think there's a very distinct difference between utilities and security tokens. I think if you're a utility token, you are giving someone access to something. The way I explained it to my mum the other day was this. The easiest utility token to understand is Amazon Prime. It really is. It's giving you access to certain products on a platform. A good utility token should almost be like Amazon Prime. It's giving you some kind of special access.
Okay.
And certainly we're looking to structure as a utility. We're looking, because we're providing the platform which provides a service, you're paying money for that service, as opposed to something that's backed as a security.
All right, Fred,
I think also taking it one step further and actually engaging with the regulators. I mean, we are based in the UK, and we didn't go offshore. We didn't try to circumvent the FCA. We've approached them openly and applied to go into their sandbox. We believe we're going to revolutionize the entire industry. It's a $500 billion industry. And the regulators need to be part of that process. They need to be actively engaged in what we're doing to bring about the change in the industry that is needed.
All right, Fred, actually, I was at SCC yesterday in France, and I talked to a few French ICOs. And what was interesting, for at least a couple of them, they told me, yeah, we went to see the AMF, which is the French FCA. And they told us, yeah, sort of similar story, you know, go France, and we don't want a brain drain, we want to encourage it. My next question was, what tells you that in 2 years' time, they're not going to turn around and retroactively apply some new regulation that would send you to jail? And both of them replied nothing. And for them, it was very clear that it was a matter of risk and how much risk they were comfortable to take. So maybe that's something to consider for the people in the audience if you're planning to launch an ICO, to keep that in mind, and that law can be applied retroactively. And therefore, there is a risk. I think it's not entirely risk-free. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we're being encouraged right now, and I know a lot of the obviously we're all, you know, claiming that our tokens are a utility token, and I could say that, hey, what's the one thing you do in a casino when you get there? You sit down at the table and you buy chips, and we provide the same thing in an online basis. If the SEC is saying all tokens are securities, you know, we have arguments against it, and to mitigate that risk, I think obtaining legal opinions is important, extremely important, to go ahead and protect yourself and to be able to go ahead and list your token. There's all kinds of arguments you can make. I like your analogy. My favorite one is, I'm an American football fan, and so I've got season tickets to the Oakland Raiders, and I buy those tickets, and those tickets allow me to get into the game. Now, if the Raiders make the playoffs, those tickets go up in value. Does that make them a security? No, it absolutely doesn't. And I think we can make some sensible arguments here, but you do need to protect yourself for sure.
So probably the main way that I've taken from it is that how do you market yourself? Do you compare yourself against other tokens which are considered securities? Do you market yourself as an investment as a return? Then you're likely to come into the security market. If you're marketing yourself as a service or entertainment or whatever it is, then how you structure the wording of how you describe your product, that can make a lot of difference.
Well, that's what I like very briefly about FINMA, because they've already said they've got 3 separate token categorizations, but they will also consider hybrids in the future. So you could have something which they consider is actually parts of 2 different tokens. So I think that's forward thinking.
Fair use. Next question, that's something I've heard from the audience here and back in France, was some people felt that an ICO sounds an awful lot like an IPO. The difference, though, is an ICO, you tokenize, if you will, the shares in your company, but they're not actual shares. They're just separate from your company shares. You have your company structure with your share structure, Class A, Class B, whatever, depending on your jurisdiction. And then you have your pool of, if you will, of share, ICO equity or token equity. And you sell it. You sell it sometimes before you even start. Whereas an IPO, you probably have existed for, say, 5, 10 years, and now you want to open up to the public. So a common criticism of ICO is that they're essentially early IPOs before sometimes someone even launched the project. So you sell your company entirely, 100% of it, before you even start. And a lot of people think that's slightly unethical, or at least misleading. What do you guys think, and how does that relate to your project?
That's completely incorrect. I think what you need to think about with a token is that you're building an economy. It's an entire economy that sits around your token. So you have to think about what builds an economy, what is going to affect your product. So, raising funds is just one part of your platform. And, I see a lot of people come into this space that are using the token just purely to raise funds. It has no use within the actual platform, and they haven't thought about how does this affect the economy behind the actual business. In a lot of cases, it's actually detrimental to have the token involved because they haven't fully thought about how is it going to play out in the ecosystem, how does it actually make any sense in driving the community, driving the industry change that you're trying to set about. So I think, focusing just purely on an IPO is equivalent to an ICO is very misleading. Shares is not the same thing as tokens. Tokens represent an entire financial model that sits behind an entirely new industry.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
One of the points to say whether you think it's a legitimate use for a token is it actually quite similar to something that people already do? So for example, the example he just gave was, buying chips at a casino. Well, they're not chips, they're just tokens. So in some ways, we're just rebranding and repurposing and using a technology to do that. It's something that people already do. They've been doing it for a very long time, and all they're doing is reapplying it. If it's like something that someone it's so disruptive because it's nothing like anyone's ever done, then that's an unproven model, in my opinion. But if all you're doing is digitizing a system that people already do, I think that's far more likely to be to pan out.
Yeah, and I think with the ERC20 standard, there's a lot of interesting product features that you can actually come up with to go ahead and make it even more innovative and more cool. We're doing things with our casino token right now that allows it to be used not only for gambling, but for skill-based gaming, for social gaming, and we can provide a unique VIP experience which can be administered differently depending on who the operator is. That's all good stuff. When it comes down to it, though, I think that you have to, as a token purchaser, be really careful and focus on the business fundamentals. I mean, we went into this after being in business for 5 years. We were fortunate enough to end 2017 with profitability, and the company has a good fundamental business. It's got some staying power. We're going to be around for a long time, and the token plays into our future roadmap. And I think that you need to, as Ash said, I think you need to really separate the token from the core business itself. And don't let me put words in your mouth, by the way. Sorry, but
no, I mean, I think you have to also be cognizant of the market that you're in, right? So we started our token sale when Ether was at 200. Ether is now at 800, and we've taken an industry-first step in repricing our token, because we want to make sure that when our sale ends, we are in the same position as when we started to return as much value as possible for C token holders. And I think we're really leading the industry in this way in being cognizant around what is happening with the external markets and how does that affect our internal economics.
All right, Nina?
Well, going back to your question,
Yes.
Basically, proof of concept is a lovely concept. I'd rather see a model that's actually working.
Right.
I'd rather invest in a business that actually exists. If I go and buy a car, I want to see it in the garage. I want to see that wheels turn round and it works.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be involved in a business where something wasn't already proven. We've got a proven product. We've been running it in the real world for 10 years. We're just digitalizing it.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense to me. There is a common misconception that Ethereum started as an ICO. And in fact, you see a lot of the ICOs out there sort of emulating the same lingo we created for Ethereum way back in the days, down to white paper, yellow paper, and it's the exact same wording. And almost trying to confuse the audience on purpose, because if you go back to 2014, you'll find that, technically speaking, we had code running on Ethereum for a good 9 months before we asked for a single penny from the audience. Everything was entirely self-funded. And that wasn't people working off love and fresh water. It was actually pre-funded by people who had put money in a pre-ICO. Ethereum was pre-funded by 2 separate individuals, which are named publicly. So that's important to keep in mind. And don't fall for sort of the trappings, if you will, of some of the marketing that's out there, which is very important because there's a lot of potential scams. But thank you for your answers. It's really good. Well, actually, on this topic, what should the audience look forward in terms of the properties of an ICO that would make it more legitimate or more interesting than some of the other stuff out there? Maybe we'll start again with you, Laura.
Yeah, sure. I think that there's 3 words that spring to mind. What, why, who? What's the product? What's it trying to do? Why is it there? Is there really a problem? Is it actually solving an issue? Or is it making up something that we don't actually need? And who are these people? Who are they really? If they have experience, great. Is that experience relevant directly to this product? Being in business for 30 years or something may not be relevant for what they want to do now. Pick a team that has relevance to the product. I'm working with 4 people. Between us, embarrassingly, we have over 100 years' experience in investment banking. We think we know what we're doing, and we're taking a product into the new world.
Mike?
Yeah, I think that's great. I would add to it that, as I said earlier, business fundamentals are important. I think the team's incredibly important, but if you've got a proven business that's been out there and you can show good traction, I think that's something that is very valuable to look at in this space, and it's something that shouldn't be underestimated. Many of the ICOs that we see are 3 guys in a garage with a white paper who formed the Cayman Islands company last year, and they're now supporting a $250 million coin market cap. What the heck is that about? I mean, when the speculation dies down and goes away, ultimately what's going to remain in terms of core value is going to be the fundamentals of the business, and that's really what you have to look at.
Very well said, Peter.
Yeah, I think businesses, after whatever the next maturity cycle is for blockchain, the businesses a lot of them are going to look very similar. They're just going to have different technology driving them. So some of them will look radically different, but that will be quite a speculative choice. Most of them will be businesses doing very similar things to what the previous business did, but perhaps in a more innovative, more dynamic, and more efficient manner.
I think, I agree with the panel here. I would add, you really need to look at why are they using the blockchain. Is there a real use case for the blockchain, or are they simply trying to raise capital? So for us, we developed a proprietary protocol that protects IP for rights and also manages the licensing part of it. Adding the transparency and the transactions to that process is solving a real-world problem. It's a practical application of the blockchain. So I think, really diving into, not only the team, the business fundamentals, but why are we using this technology? It's still at generation 2, and we think about where we're going with distributed proof of stake, chains like Zero Chain coming in, who we've partnered with for our video storage. The blockchain is evolving, and it's evolving rapidly. The technology is evolving rapidly. That's why we took the approach of making our protocol agnostic, so that we can evolve with the technology.
Okay. All right. Talking about technology, currently, you've mentioned ERC20. This is a direct reference to Ethereum. Are you all using Ethereum for your ICO? No. All of you?
Yeah.
No. Peter?
So in our case, because we were trying to deliver a higher performance platform, we have our own platform. But we're looking to integrate, obviously, with Ethereum and other fiat and digital currencies.
Are there any, because people in the audience will know about other platforms, EOS, Tezos, Neo, Quantum, you name it, IOTA, BigChain, DB, Extra. Are they superior or equal footed platform to run your ICOs that you would be able to recommend, or is the leader Ethereum, and does it continue to be the leader? Will it change?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to look at it from a business point of view. Who are the developers you're going to get? How can you scale your development team? What is the development infrastructure going to look like? And further to that, where is, do those particular chains have capital to deploy through your business? I mean, is it relevant to what you're trying to do? Not just from a technology delivery point of view, but from a business point of view.
You're saying the underlying platform that you choose for your blockchain needs to be relevant to your business.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to support your business, right? So not just in technological ways, but in the ecosystem around it. So developers, attraction, market appeal. I mean, Ethereum is by far leading at the moment. So do you want to capitalize on that traction, or do you want to go with an unknown and try and reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
I mean, our business is not to create a blockchain. We don't want to do that. That's a really big project. We don't want to touch that. We want to focus on our business.
Yeah. Peter, you choose to develop your own platforms.
Our background is developing platforms for banks, and that's been our established thing. So we're not actually necessarily looking to create a completely new business model, which is what most people are trying to do, a new business model on top of blockchain, and their actual choice of which blockchain they're not sold on. I mean, they have a preference probably for Ethereum, but if for whatever reason they needed to switch, it wouldn't fundamentally hurt them too much. Whereas we're actually platform providers. That's our background, that's our technology, and our claim to fame is both performance but also ease of development. So we create what is a framework that you can plug in what is your business model, what transactions do you want to support. You can do that in regular Java. So there's 10 million Java developers in the world. Not all of them could develop them, but certainly any Java developer with investment banking experience should be able to pick this up, and that's part of our assumption.
So your mileage may vary. Use the right platform for your business. I guess, Michael, you agree with that?
Yeah, for us it's simple. I mean, ERC-20 is a well-established and well-known standard, and it's about risk mitigation. And for us, that made it a very simple decision. What's the risk? And we moved on.
Linda?
Yeah, ERC-20, completely agree. Obviously, it's a great space for development and technology. The one that I love reading about is Neo, because I'm not the CTO, I'm the CFO. But Neo seems to me to have potential possibly in the future to rival Ethereum. And going back to your point of how many Java developers there are, that kind of mix of languages and their proof of stake seems to be fairly solid.
The way to go. All right. Excellent. Well, we're almost done. In terms of the last question, I'll let you finish on this. What can people, the audience in this case, look forward to in terms of the ICO market, whether it's a technological development, if you're coming from a technological angle, or a legal angle, depending on what you prefer. In 2018, 2019, a lot of people today have been talking about a potential crash, a potential, it was described as a cleanup almost. Is that true? I mean, what do you guys expect? Starting maybe with yourself, Ashley?
Yeah, sure. So I think, you have to really look at the internet. Let's go back in time a little bit. What is the internet? The internet is the industries it has disrupted. So if you look at e-commerce, that has replaced traditional retail. If you look at email, that has replaced the post office. If you look at self-publishing and social networks, that has replaced media. So the industries that have been disrupted have defined the internet. And if you look at those industries will be disrupted again with the blockchain, but the blockchain adds in some additional features, some additional services. So at the top layer, everyone is talking about cryptocurrencies. That's the most public and obvious service available to the blockchain. But there are other services available, such as the distributed ledger, the decentralized database, which we're using in the form of zero chain for our data storage. Turns our liabilities into an asset. Computing power. We now send requests instead of HTTP requests going to a server, you're submitting HTTP requests to the blockchain. It's a completely different paradigm shift. So the consensus algorithms that are driving the blockchain of today will definitely evolve, and we will start to see more innovations within the technology, and it will continually evolve. So I think, it's a really exciting time to be involved in this moment where we can start looking back at this time and start saying, that's when the top 1% started getting diluted. That's when the industry started to move in a different way. And, I believe storytelling is the most powerful way to share our values, share our culture. And what we're doing is enabling those stories to be decentralized and to connect with each other in a peer-to-peer fashion driven by communities. So I'm really excited to be able to join you here today for this really landmark moment. I also have one announcement. Sorry to hijack the panel here a little bit.
Ever so slightly.
We recently partnered with Token Communities, and they are part of a collection of media companies. Today, they are underwriting us for $10 million, and I really am so excited to say that this company, along with what we're doing with the British Film Institute, Red Rock Entertainment, we're about to change the entire industry. So I'd like to
congratulations, Peter.
Perhaps to summarize, very good. Perhaps to summarize that point in another way is that there's two factors to this. One is the business enthusiasm for speculators to try and get into the market and make quick returns. That only has longevity as long as that keeps happening. However, I think one of the core things about blockchain is it's tapped into a real enthusiasm, as you may well have seen. And he's certainly not alone. And I think that genuine enthusiasm will last any kind of correctional bubble. And I think that's an essential element you're seeing playing out in politics, a certain anti-establishment, not trusting banks, not trusting governments element. I don't see that going away in the next couple of decades. I don't think that's something that will just fix itself or correct itself. And so people will be looking for alternatives to established systems. And I think they see blockchain as being part of that. And I don't think that's going to change.
Very well. Mike?
Yeah, I think we've come a long way since the Silk Road and the dark web. And I think that I look around and I see a lot more well-established companies entering the space. And I think that legitimacy is something that we all need to help encourage and keep our eyes on. And that's why we built our partnership with the Arsenal Football Club. That's why we announced earlier this week, Arsenal, go Gunners! All right. That's why we announced earlier this week that we partnered with the largest privately held gambling company in the world, Novomatic, to give them access to our token for their VIP program. Very exciting stuff. I think increasing that legitimacy is going to go ahead and build a better marketplace for us in the future. And I think that more regulation is to come. I think that as the markets become a bit more regulated, they become more trusted by consumers, more people will participate, and the rampant speculation that we see right now, which I think is driving the frothy valuations in a lot of these ICOs and a lot of these cryptocurrencies, is going to come to an end at some point. You look right now, and I think there's been about maybe a little bit less than $1 trillion or so invested in ICOs. And you look back at the stock market bubble, which a lot of us lived through back in 1999, 2000. I think that was around $7 trillion that it reached at its peak. At the current rate, we're going to reach that maybe around Q3, Q4 of next year. So that's when I anticipate things are going to change quite rapidly. And so look for companies like these with good fundamentals to survive, and a lot of other companies to have been consolidated or go away.
Very well. Laura?
Right, there's two things I'm looking forward to this year. One of them, which is already happening, is the spread of ICOs into the humanitarian space. Two that really impress me personally, and I'm not personally involved with them, are Earth Dollar and Women's Coin. The whole space is evolving, but there's a lot of good projects out there. The second thing that I'm personally excited about this year, but I reckon 90% of people are not, is volatility. It is going to continue. It is going to probably get worse. We're going to see those peaks and troughs in the prices of all cryptocurrencies. The correlation between most of them is intense, and you do not see that in most other traditional markets. In terms of volatility, the thing to look at is stable coins. In terms of stable coins, obviously, the thing to look at is Globcoin.
Fair news. Thank you very much. That's very clever, Laura. Yes. Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate your honesty and participating in this panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.